The final flight. December 4, 1991. A Pan Am Boeing 727 touches down at Miami International Airport. The engines go silent, and so does an era. This was Pan Am Flight 436, the last of what once was the world's most recognized airline. For over 60 years, Pan Am had been the face of American aviation, a brand synonymous with luxury, innovation, and international prestige. But beneath the glamorous uniforms, champagne toasts, and iconic blue globe logo, a storm had been brewing for decades. The end wasn't just the death of a company. It was the close of a golden chapter in aviation history. The story of Pan Am begins in 1927 with a young entrepreneur named Juan Trippe. A Yale graduate and former Navy pilot, Trippe had an audacious vision to create an airline that would shrink the world. Starting with a mail route from Key West, Florida to Havana, Cuba, Pan American Airways was born. Trippe believed aviation could unite the world, and with the backing of influential Wall Street investors and political connections in Washington, he made it happen. Pan Am expanded rapidly across Latin America, securing exclusive government airmail contracts that would later give it a head start in the global airline race. More than just a businessman, Trippe was a visionary. He saw commercial aviation not just as transport, but as a diplomatic tool, a global network that could project American influence and connect cultures. His ambitions earned him powerful allies, including President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and placed Pan Am at the intersection of commerce and geopolitics. By the 1930s, Pan Am had become more than just an airline. It was a symbol of progress. The company pioneered transoceanic flights, launching flying boats like the famous China Clipper, which connected San Francisco to Manila via island-hopping routes. These majestic aircraft, complete with dining rooms and lounges, set the standard for luxury travel. Flying wasn't just about getting from one place to another. It was an experience. Passengers dressed in their finest attire. Meals were served on fine china. Cocktails flowed freely in the lounges of these elegant flying boats. The experience was closer to a cruise liner than an airplane. For many, a Pan Am ticket was a ticket to a new aspirational identity. Trippe recruited the best pilots, many of them former military aviators, and trained them to navigate dangerous, uncharted routes across the Pacific and Atlantic. Pan Am's aviators were modern-day explorers, trusted with the lives of passengers in an era when international flying was far from routine. When World War II broke out, Pan Am didn't just survive, it thrived. Its aircraft and personnel became vital cogs in the Allied logistics machine. The airline's expertise in overseas routes and large flying boats made it an essential partner for the U.S. government, further strengthening its global footprint. In 1958, Pan Am changed the world again. The airline became the first to offer commercial jet service with the Boeing 707. The inaugural flight from New York to Paris was a media spectacle, symbolizing the dawn of the jet age. Flashbulbs popped, dignitaries raised toasts, and a new chapter of travel began. Suddenly, what had taken days could be done in hours. Pan Am became the airline of the elite. Diplomats, celebrities, and CEOs all flew under its banner. The blue globe logo became one of the most recognized symbols in the world, and the phrase, "If it's Pan Am, it must be first class," entered the cultural lexicon. By the 1960s, Pan Am was flying to over 80 countries and offering a level of service unmatched by competitors. Uniformed stewardesses served gourmet meals, and pilots wore military-style hats with gold trim. The airline also built the Pan Am building in New York, now the MetLife building, a towering tribute to its power and status. This era saw the introduction of iconic aircraft, like the Boeing 747. Trippe personally pushed Boeing to develop the jumbo jet, believing that larger aircraft would democratize air travel. He was right, but ironically, the very innovation he championed would contribute to Pan Am's decline as competitors caught up and capitalized on economies of scale. But beneath the surface of all the glamour, trouble loomed. For one, Pan Am had overextended itself. It had no domestic routes in the U.S., relying solely on international travel. While this worked for decades, the 1978 Airline Deregulation Act in the U.S. changed the game. Deregulation introduced fierce price competition and allowed new carriers to enter the market. Airlines like American and United rapidly expanded their domestic and international networks, leaving Pan Am scrambling. To adapt, Pan Am purchased National Airlines for $437 million in 1980, a decision that would prove disastrous. The merger was clumsy, and the integration of routes, staff, and equipment caused chaos and inefficiency. Cultural clashes between the two companies' employees led to operational nightmares. Meanwhile, fuel prices soared due to the oil crisis. Pan Am's long-haul international routes became increasingly expensive to operate. Aging aircraft and an inability to modernize quickly only added to the problems. The grandeur of Pan Am couldn't mask its growing financial instability. The leadership also made questionable decisions, expanding into hospitality, real estate, and other ventures that distracted from core operations. Meanwhile, competitors streamlined, slashed costs, and adapted to new market realities. The 1980s were especially cruel. In 1988, Pan Am Flight 103 was destroyed over Lockerbie, Scotland, by a terrorist bomb. All 259 people on board and 11 on the ground were killed. The tragedy shocked the world and devastated Pan Am's reputation. The media coverage was relentless. Families mourned publicly, and congressional hearings probed the airline's security protocols. Pan Am was found lacking, and lawsuits piled up. The brand, once a symbol of elegance, now evoked fear. Meanwhile, customer confidence plummeted. Bookings fell. Pan Am tried to cut costs, spinning off its reservation system, selling its JFK Worldport terminal, and offloading its prized transatlantic routes to Delta Airlines in 1991. But these moves were too little, too late. By this time, the company was operating at a loss of over $2 million per day. Employee morale sank. Longtime staff watched helplessly as their beloved airline withered before their eyes. The Gulf War in 1990 further crippled the travel industry, especially international carriers like Pan Am. Rising fuel costs, global instability, and a sharp drop in passenger numbers created the perfect storm. On January 8, 1991, Pan Am filed for bankruptcy protection. Attempts were made to keep the airline alive. Delta Airlines invested $416 million in exchange for a controlling stake and Pan Am's key assets. There were hopes of building a leaner, regional airline focused on the East Coast and Caribbean, but the effort faltered. Delta withdrew its support just months later. With no buyer and no path to profitability, Pan Am ceased operations on December 4, 1991. Thousands of employees lost their jobs. Passengers were stranded, and a giant of the skies vanished into history. Though Pan Am no longer flies, its legacy is undeniable. It revolutionized global travel, introduced the world to jet-powered flight, and set standards in aviation that many airlines still follow. It built the infrastructure of international flying routes, regulations, and even customs procedures that underpin modern aviation. Its blue globe logo remains one of the most iconic in branding history. It even inspired TV shows, books, and fashion lines. In 2006, a brief attempt was made to revive Pan Am as a luxury brand, but it never recaptured the original magic. Pan Am's uniforms, meal services, and marketing campaigns became cultural milestones. The brand's presence in films like 2001, A Space Odyssey, and James Bond movies cemented its pop culture appeal. Key lessons include: don't overextend. Expansion without a solid foundation can lead to collapse. Adapt or die. The airline failed to evolve with market and regulatory changes. Diversify wisely. Putting all your eggs in one basket, international routes, made the company vulnerable. Brand can't save broken operations. No matter how powerful the brand, poor management and financial missteps can destroy it. Resilience in leadership is vital. Visionary leaders like Juan Trippe built the company, but successors failed to navigate modern business challenges. Epilogue: the Blue Globe in memory. Today, aviation buffs and nostalgic travelers still speak fondly of Pan Am. Museums preserve their artifacts, books and documentaries recount its grandeur, and in airports around the world you might still find someone who remembers flying Pan Am and feeling like a part of history. Pan Am was not just an airline, it was a symbol of an era when flying was a dream, and like many dreams, it was beautiful, bold, and fleeting. But its spirit, etched into the history of aviation, continues to soar. If this story made you think, inspired you, or took you down memory lane, don't let it end here. Hit that like button to support our work, subscribe for more powerful stories like this, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the rise or the fall of the next big empire.